Ever hear a whisper in the dark and think, that's a tomorrow problem? Welcome to Not My Ghost, Not My Problem, where hosts Jen and Kelly share listener-submitted ghost stories, haunted places, and chilling mysteries, all with a wicked sense of humor. It's spooky, it's hilarious, and it might just make you second-guess that shadow in the corner. Believer or skeptic, there's always room around their campfire. Search for Not My Ghost, Not My Problem on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. Hit play, and remember, it's only your problem if you acknowledge it. Research and recording of Canadian Creepies happens on the shared land and traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe peoples, many of whom continue to live and work here today. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties. A key treaty governing this territory is the Dish with One Spoon Agreement. This treaty between the Anishinaabe, Mississaugas, and Haudenosaunee people binds them to share and protect the land. Subsequent Indigenous nations and peoples, settlers, and all newcomers have been invited into this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. We all share the responsibility of ensuring the dish is never empty, meaning we must take care of the land and the creatures we share in it. Canadian Creepies covers true crime, dark history, and disturbing events. Some episodes may include graphic descriptions or sensitive subject matter. We do our best to handle every story with care and respect for those affected. That said, we sometimes use humor and sarcasm as a way to process heavy content, never to disrespect victims, survivors, or their families. Listener discretion is advised. We want to be transparent with our listeners. Canadian Creepies is currently a non-profit project. We don't make any money from the podcast. However, any revenue that is generated from this series will be donated entirely to payyourrent.ca. The only ad you'll hear in this series will be a message about payyourrent.ca itself. Payyourrent.ca is an Indigenous-led initiative that calls on settlers and non-Indigenous people in Canada to pay voluntary ongoing contributions, or rent, to the Indigenous nations whose lands they live on. The platform helps direct funds to specific Indigenous communities and organizations supporting sovereignty, self-determination, and vital community needs. We believe it's one small way to move beyond words toward meaningful action. Welcome back to our residential school series, Erasure, Resistance, Reckoning, here on Canadian Creepies. I'm Valerie.
And I'm Amanda.
This is part 3, Resistance and Survival. Today we're talking about something that often gets overlooked when people talk about residential schools, and that's the ways Indigenous children, families, and communities resisted.
Because despite the violence and the control these schools enforced, there was never just passive acceptance. Students ran away, they rebelled, families fought to get their children back, entire communities worked to keep language, culture, and knowledge alive.
We'll also talk about how the personal and intergenerational trauma that resulted from these schools, and how that connects to early advocacy and activism that laid the groundwork for today's movements for justice and truth.
We want to be clear that this episode contains stories of harm, but also courage. Acts of survival that challenged the narrative of that Indigenous cultures were simply lost or eradicated, because they weren't. They fought.
As settlers ourselves, we're here to listen, to learn, and to share these stories with respect. And as always, we encourage you to seek out Indigenous voices directly and support the communities doing this work today.
So let's get into resistance and survival.
Here we are, part 3.
Hooray!
I feel like with this series, we shouldn't do a lot of banter.
Concur.
I will sip my tea, though. I'll do this part. Hey, everyone. I guess welcome back as well.
Yes.
Welcome back.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for joining us. And we're just going to get right into it.
Perfect.
Because I'm actually quite excited. Not excited isn't the right word. I've been looking forward to when we get out of you know, just like sort of like the more
the heavy.
Yeah, out of the heavy. This isn't even. Anyway, I'm overthinking it.
I know. I get what you're putting down.
Yeah,
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah, it's a vibes thing.
Yeah.
Despite the dehumanizing conditions Indigenous children faced in residential schools, their spirits were never truly broken. Resistance took many forms: bold, quiet, individual, collective, and every act was an assertion of identity and survival. This is the spirit of resistance. The dominant narrative of residential schools often centers on abuse, assimilation, and cultural erasure. But woven into that same history are countless stories of courage, strength, and resistance. Despite the brutal policies designed to break them, Indigenous children fought back in remarkable and deeply human ways. Because it's very human if you trap a bunch of humans or put a bunch of humans together in a space where they feel trapped or backed into a corner. They will naturally figure out ways to work together to get them out of that corner. That's what we do as humans.
I kind of feel like that's what's going to happen in the States in the foreseeable future.
Yes. There were student rebellions. There were moments when entire groups of students rose up in protest because there was like a lot more of them than there were adults.
I mean,
but unfortunately the adults had weapons. You know?
Yeah.
You know? And strength, more strength. And physical structures to hold them captive.
Yeah.
Essentially. But entire groups of students rose up in protest, refusing to accept the conditions forced upon them. A good example of this is the 1937 student strike at the Morley Residential School in Alberta. In 1937, students at the Morley School staged a rebellion in response to harsh discipline and mistreatment. The strike was led by older students and lasted several days. Good for them.
Yeah.
Though ultimately suppressed, it forced the administration to take their grievances seriously and drew attention from higher church and government officials. Why does this matter? This was a coordinated act of defiance, proof that the students were not passive and were capable of organizing collective resistance. That's proof that, it's also proof that the narrative that the colonial system was trying to push around Indigenous people and children, which was that they are an uncivilized people. The fact that children come together and rebel in an organized manner
very
quite
civilized.
proves the opposite.
Yes.
Thank you. My goodness. And at many schools, food was barely edible, so there were many food protests. There was rotting meat, moldy bread, or watery porridge. Students would sometimes refuse to eat or secretly organize hunger strikes. So in addition to the medical experiments where the malnutrition was being forced upon students and studied, they were also voluntarily starving themselves out of protest. And that is something that is an example of adults do that as a form of protest.
A peaceful protest.
And these children would not have been taught. It's not like they were given cliff notes on how to protest.
No.
You know,
they didn't have their parents there to coach them.
Didn't have just the older students. So
I feel like that's something we see even in children nowadays. I don't like this, so I'm not going to eat it.
Yeah.
Only this was done on a more, I don't want to say political base because that's not necessary. Well,
yeah, political.
Yeah, it was.
Totally. And a human rights basis.
Yes. This was more of a protest of, we're sick of your shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll kill ourselves before you can kill us.
If I'm going out anyways, I'm going to go out with a bang.
That's right. Yeah.
Make my death mean something.
Yeah. At least I have autonomy and some choice.
Yeah.
And the fact that these children were thinking at that level is devastating. Yeah, it's really sad. At the Mount Elgin Industrial School in Ontario, students protested the horrific meals by dumping their food out windows or hiding it in napkins, showing disdain for what was meant to nourish them. One of the most common and courageous acts of resistance was running away. For many children, the urge to escape beat stronger than fear of punishment or even death. Okay, so if they escaped, they would have been punished severely or beaten to death. I don't understand this sentence. The urge to escape beats stronger. Like that urge to escape was stronger than okay.
It fueled them stronger than the idea.
Understood.
Yeah.
I'm like, if I'm not understanding it, someone listening is not going to understand it.
I wrote it and I don't understand what
Never do. I don't know what version of me wrote this.
Same.
Students who ran were often returned by police or priests. So the system, and we say that there is no such thing as systemic racism. The police returning these students to the schools instead of their families is a great example of systemic racism. And why Indigenous people wouldn't trust police. Like, why would you? Not all of them. Oh my God, I didn't mean to do that. It's fine.
You're good. You're good.
I know, I overthink. But why anyway.
Yeah, we're taught police are meant to help us.
I don't want to speak for anyone. I think that's why I stopped myself. Like, I do listen to a lot. Now I feel like I'm being like, well, I have a black friend, so I'm just going to stop talking. Yet many still chose. So even though the students ran, and when they ran, they could be beaten or killed, they still chose to flee again and again, knowing the risks. Celia Hegg Brown, in her oral history book, Resistance and Renewal, quotes a student from Kamloops residential school. And they said, I ran away twice. I walked along the tracks for days. I just wanted to see my grandmother again.
That's so sad.
Awful.
I just wanted to see my grandmother again. That's very, profound.
Very profound and very, speaks to the age of the person saying it.
Yeah.
This next quote is from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission archives. We'd escape at night through the kitchen window. We'd take bannock or dried meat if we had any. We didn't even have shoes. We didn't care. We just had to get away. In some schools, entire groups of children attempted to flee. In winter, these journeys could be deadly.
Especially with, no shoes.
Yeah. And this next example is another example from 1937, and it's from the LeJac Residential School in British Columbia. 4 boys aged 8 to 9 fled the school in February, attempting to walk 7 miles to their home in Nadley Village. They froze to death in the snow. Horrific. Their bodies were found huddled together near a tree.
Trying to stay warm.
Yeah. This tragedy is one of the most heartbreaking examples of how desperate children were trying to return to their families and communities.
And nowadays, if something like that were to happen, or even then if it was a white
family, yeah.
And
or 4 white boys.
Yeah. The school would have paid hell for that. The families would have sued. There would have been public outcry. And they were just meh.
And the families of these 4 boys probably never even got any resolution. School probably didn't even care enough to take record and let them know.
Which is just even more that, leaving that family with the unknowing of what happened to their children.
Yeah, after they were taken from them.
Yeah.
What the hell? Not all resistance was grand or visible. Many children resisted quietly by holding on to language, identity, and memory. Despite severe punishment for speaking their Indigenous languages, many students whispered to each other in secret.
Good.
And how, for lack of a better word, adult is that? To know that your language is so precious that you need, and that your culture is in this moment of crisis and trauma and everything that's going on around you still have the wherewithal to continue to. It's astonishing.
People often take children's intelligence for granted.
Yeah, the kids are so smart
just because they might
and
not
perceptive.
And they might not be able to articulate what is going on, but they have an understanding of what is happening, whether or not they can put it into words.
Yeah, they know the vibes and they know the feelings.
80% of language is unspoken. So they know.
They know.
By the looks, the tone of your voice, your body language.
Yeah. for sure.
Not being fed proper food that isn't rotting.
Exactly.
Like,
Florence Kafer, a former teacher at Norway House Residential School, recalled, "They would speak Cree behind my back or when they thought I wasn't listening. That language was survival. It connected them to each other." I don't want to hear more about Florence. Some children drew traditional symbols in the dirt, sang songs under their breath, or used traditional names among themselves when staff weren't listening. Others passed on knowledge in secret, how to bead, how to pray in their own way, how to smudge using ashes, or whatever they could find. This next quote is from a Truth and Reconciliation Commission testimony. And it says, I used to say my name in my head over and over so I wouldn't forget. I knew they wanted me to forget. I wouldn't let them. Like, that's just so profound that these children...
And tragic. Being
and tragic,
in that
yes,
situation.
absolutely tragic. Like knowing they're trying to erase me. Like, having the wherewithal to understand that they are trying to erase your culture in that moment. As a child, understanding that. Whoa.
It's like, who the hell are these people that are trying to get me to use a different name than...
Straight up.
You're not my parents.
And kids are like that, too.
Oh, yeah.
Kids are like that. My son, try and get him to call him a different name. He was like, no, it's Felix.
Oh, Oliver, too.
Yeah.
Oliver's my stepson, for those of you who are listening.
Felix, I'll go, you ready, Freddie? It's Felix. Right on. So they're like that. It's just like there's this resilience in children and this strength, and
yeah, they know who they are.
They know what's up.
Yeah,
and they know the vibes. Every act of resistance, whether a runaway attempt, a strike, or a whispered word in Cree, was an act of survival. And not just Cree, there were also... It's just an example. These children were supposed to forget who they were, but many never did. They fought against the odds, against fear, against systems. And those acts of defiance are why so much Indigenous culture, knowledge, and language still live today. I worded that sentence beautifully.
You spoke it beautifully.
Thank you. Right. You want to do this next one?
Sure.
All right.
So despite the dehumanizing conditions...
Nope, we just did that one. 3.
My goodness. I am lost.
That's okay.
I think it's this weather pressure is screwing with my sight as well. Like, I feel like I'm looking at things blurry.
Yeah.
John's at home right now with a massive headache and can barely get out of bed. I'm like, it's because it's going to thunderstorm and hasn't yet.
It's the barometric pressure.
It screws me right up. So the resistance of Indigenous children within the schools was powerful, but it was never isolated. Families, communities, and leaders on the outside were fighting just as fiercely. Despite colonial voices, legal barriers...
Colonial violence, sorry.
Yes. Cannibals. If you listen to our last episode that we did together,
Canada's Cannibals cult.
It was cannabis.
Yeah,
I
cannabis.
just got a little excited.
Yeah.
And the constant threat of punishment or surveillance, Indigenous families and leaders waged a long, determined battle to reclaim their children and their culture and their futures. Which, I mean...
As you would.
Who wouldn't?
Who wouldn't?
What parent wouldn't?
What parent wouldn't? I mean, look what white people do to ensure that white people just exist on this planet.
That is quite a statement, but like,
I'm serious.
Yeah.
So look what we do.
Yeah.
Look what settlers have done. Just to keep, so it's just a human thing.
It's ingrained into...
It's ingrained in us.
It's a parental thing too.
Yes.
Because I think there are some people who don't have kids that are like, F them kids. But
yeah. F them kids.
In general, not just
I could go a day without seeing another kid. I'm like,
get off my lawn, you crazy kids.
Put up a fence, buddy.
Yeah. So this is a testimony from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. We didn't send them willingly. We were forced, but we never stopped trying to bring them home. The Indian Act of 1876 and its amendments gave the federal government sweeping control over nearly every aspect of Indigenous life. By the 20th century, attendance in residential schools was mandatory.
Oh, my Lord.
That's crazy. Like the 20th century.
Not that long ago. The pictures I've been posting on Instagram are all photos of actual residential schools throughout Canada, and one of them is from 1950. 1950. Not that long ago. Not even 100 years.
Right? Like there are people alive today who were there for that, and we're a part of it.
Yeah, fully participated.
And thought this is a great idea.
Yeah.
I'm going to go along with this.
Let's
right. Kidnap them kids.
I'm not going to challenge this at all.
The parents who refused could face fines, imprisonment, and forcible removal of their children by police or Indian agents.
I hate that.
But families resisted anyways. Some parents and leaders petitioned the government for the return of their children or closure of abusive schools. These petitions were often ignored, still documented early political organizations and advocacy.
Straight up.
Families hid children in the bush and sent them to live with relatives in distinct communities or move off reserve to evade attendance requirements. That is like the Underground Railroad.
Yeah.
And it is very much like I think of in the beginning scene in Inglourious Bastards where they're hiding the Jews under the floorboards and he comes in and he knows that they're there.
Yeah.
And he's like, I want a glass of milk. And he's like, just point to me where they are. That's what that reminds me of.
Yeah.
Think about it that way, people. If you thought that the Holocaust was bad, this is a Canadian Holocaust.
Yeah, fully. It's the genocide. An attempted genocide, it's been described as.
Not just to the people, but like their culture.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some even sought help from missionaries or sympathetic settlers to shelter children, creating a quiet but powerful underground of resistance. Another Underground Railroad.
Yeah.
Fred Quilt.
To Siliquit in leader.
Thank you, because I wasn't going to attempt that.
It's phonetic.
I would.
And I could be saying that wrong. And I likely am.
So Fred Quilt, he was a known advocate in the 1960s and 1970s. Well, he was among the leaders who spoke openly about the intergenerational harm of residential schools. While not always covered in mainstream narratives, leaders like Quilt helped shift the public consciousness and encouraged others to step forward with their stories. Mary Tuax Early, she was a Mohawk elder and activist. Through her activism is more linked to Indigenous women's rights under the Indian Act. She also fought against the systemic injustices.
I love that name, Mary Tuax.
Right?
Mary Tuax.
It sounds very... Tuax. Tuax.
Tuax.
Two?
As in 2-AXE. Axe. She probably had
sounds
two
like
axes.
A warrior.
Straight up.
Yeah. Straight up warrior.
She was. If not physically, then politically anyway. But with a name like Tuax, I don't want to assume anything.
Right?
I don't want to assume
Living
anything.
up to her name.
She could have been really good at chopping down trees.
I'm nodding. You guys can't see this. But she used her voice and platform to connect the dots between colonial law, gender discrimination, and cultural erasure, including through forced child removals.
Way to go, Mary Tuax.
Chief Dan George from the...
Tsleil Waututh?
Yeah, I was going to say Waututh.
Waututh Nation, yep.
In 1967, during the Canadian Centennial Celebration, Chief Dan George delivered a now iconic speech that was titled A Lament for Confederation.
A lament.
Lament.
A laminate.
I can't
They didn't
English.
laminate anything then.
Cannibal. That's going to be my go-to. A laminate for Confederation. While not naming residential schools explicitly.
Try again. Lament.
Lament.
Okay. Do you know what lament means?
Yes.
Okay.
I need to go back.
You're doing great.
To how to speak English language.
I think you're just going so fast.
That's exactly what it is. I start to stumble over my words. That's just how I read, in general. And
I have to remind myself to slow down too.
Yeah.
We're not in a rush.
That's what I did with the cannibal one, where I'm just seeing like these are the letters, and this is a similar word to what I am seeing.
Yeah.
That's just the first thing my mouth. It speaks before my brain has a second to process what I'm actually reading. So while not naming residential schools explicitly, he condemned the violence of colonization. I was born 1,000 years ago. I was born when people loved all nature and spoke to it as though it had a soul. I was born when the buffalo roamed the plains and the sky was not cut with white man's trails of smoke. I really like that.
Yeah.
It's very ancestral.
Yes.
And poetic.
Very poetic.
His speech gave voice to the suppressed pain and enduring resistance of generations of Indigenous people, including the children in those schools.
Hell yeah.
I mean, you have to have some sort of adult voice on the outside.
Yes.
There were constant appeals to missionaries and governments. The families would write letters, travel long distances, and camp outside the school's gates, pleading to visit. That's sad. Or retrieve their children.
That's where I would be.
Yeah. Like, imagine, like, sitting outside, waiting just to see a glimpse of your child.
Brutal.
Not knowing whether or not they're okay.
Yeah.
That's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
These acts were rarely recorded in colonial archives, but survivors' testimonies highlight their persistence. This one comes from the... oh my god, goodness, what is that again? Survivor. It was a survivor from the...
Oh, Truth and Reconciliation Committee.
Thank you. I couldn't remember the first word, and I was
okay.
like, I know it. My mom came to the school and stood outside the fence. They wouldn't let her in. She just stayed all day, every day for a week. That's heartbreaking. In rare but powerful instances, Indigenous leaders threatened or initiated legal action, although most of the cases fell through in court due to racial laws and judicial biases. They created pressure... Judicial.
Sorry. Please continue.
They created pressure. I don't mean to laugh on such a serious topic, but okay. I'm just so... football in my mouth. They created a pressure and paper trails. These efforts laid the groundwork for later lawsuits, settlements, and eventual calls for inquiry. There was also direct confrontation. In some cases, parents and communities would take direct action, such as storming the schools to remove their children.
How would you not, you know?
Right?
How would you not?
I know how aggressive I get about certain situations. My friend Valerie actually said I'm her meanest friend the other day.
You're like, come on. That's not a title I wanted.
Because this would be something I would do, though. Like, I would not, like, back down and take that, like, at all.
Right.
Yeah. As I feel like most people, like... But I can be a bit aggressive. But anyways. They would block buses or resist RCMP enforcement. I'd be blocking buses too.
Yeah.
Like, I would throw stuff out into the middle of the road. Like, you can't come on my street.
The amount of rage.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would get everybody else rallied up to be like, come on.
We're rallying.
We're going to
get angry.
Put cars in front of this street and shoot out the tires. Or
I'm like, they didn't have cars. It's the 60s. Yeah, they had cars.
60s. Well, like, just to give everybody perspective, the 60s and the 70s when this was happening, I was born in 86.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy to me.
It's crazy.
And they organized community protests, especially in the 1960s and the 1970s, when awareness of systemic abuse began to grow. One of the best examples of a takeover was in the 1970s from the Blue Quills School in Alberta. It's perhaps the most iconic act of community resistance to residential school systems. It was run originally by the Catholic Church, of course.
Yeah. The school was run originally by the Catholic Church.
Mm-hmm. And then in 1970, Indigenous parents and leaders occupied the school, demanding to be turned over to the First Nations control. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Agreed.
After several weeks of protest and negotiation, they won. Fuck
Hell
yeah. And it became the first Canadian Indigenous-controlled school, now known as Blue Quills University. Good for them.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Right?
It was the beginning of taking our education back, or of taking back our children. This is Irene Arcane. She was a protester who later became a board member. This was a major moment in the resistance movement and remained a powerful example of how Indigenous sovereignty and survival. Beyond political action, families and leaders fought back by preserving what was being targeted for erasure. They continued to speak in Indigenous languages in their homes and community, holding traditional ceremonies and teachings in secret, recording oral histories and stories to pass down, and reteaching culture and kinship to children who returned from schools estranged from their heritage. One survivor from the National Center for Truth and Reconciliation said, "My grandmother taught me how to smudge again. I didn't know. I was afraid of it. But she said, 'You need this. They tried to take it away. We're still here.'"
Wow.
That's a great grandma.
Yeah.
Yeah. This fight was not just reactive, it was proactive. It was visionary and often rooted in love. Indigenous families and leaders never stopped resisting, even when the system of controls were overwhelming. Their efforts, alongside their own children's, laid the groundwork for today's resurgence of language, ceremony, and Indigenous-led education. They tried to bury us, but they didn't know we were seeds. This is a popular resistance quote, often referenced by Indigenous educators. And that's a hell of a good one.
Yeah.
I really like that one.
I like that one too. Let's take a moment during this break to talk about something that matters. Something that doesn't get to be background noise. The Anishinaabe-Moan word, Nikinagana, means we are all related, and we are. But relationship isn't just about words, it's about responsibility. Canadian author Naomi Klein once said, "It is not enough to say that we live on Indigenous land. We have to act as if we do." And one way to do that is by supporting Pay Your Rent, a grassroots mutual aid initiative that offers direct material support to Indigenous organizers across this land. It's not charity, it's rent. For those of us who aren't Indigenous to this place, it's a way to show up differently, to redistribute some of what's been taken. The Pay Your Rent Fund started as a one-time request for help in 2018 and grew into a nonprofit called Nikinagana. Your monthly or one-time donation can help provide food, hygiene supplies, housing support, and resources for Indigenous-led resistance and community care. So if you've ever said, "We're all related," ask yourself, are you being a good relative? Visit payyourrent.ca and find out more about how you can be part of something better. Now, back to this case. The trauma caused by residential schools didn't end when the buildings closed. Its effects rippled outward, touching generations that followed. Here's a detailed, thorough exploration of the impact on survivors and intergenerational trauma. This is a survivor testimony from the National Center for Truth and Reconciliation. I survived residential school, but sometimes it feels like the hurt never left me. It just changed shape.
It's like grief.
Yeah, totally. And it's trauma. Survivors of residential schools experienced unimaginable abuse, emotional, physical, cultural, and sexual. These schools operated for over 160 years, meaning multiple generations of Indigenous peoples were subjected to forced separation, isolation, and systemic dehumanization. Many children emerged unable to speak their mother tongue or practice their traditional ways. This led to deep disconnection, not just from family, but from self-identity. When I came home, I couldn't speak my language anymore. My grandparents tried, but I didn't understand them. I lost that part of me. And that was from a Truth and Reconciliation survivor statement.
That's really sad.
Devastating. Survivors report symptoms consistent with complex PTSD, including depression, anxiety, substance use disorders, and suicidal ideation. Many experienced a lifelong difficulty forming trust-based relationships, especially with authority figures. I was afraid of people who, for a long time, I didn't know how to be loved. I thought punishment was normal. And that was from a survivor at a former student at Shubin Acadie Residential School.
You did better than I would have.
So what is intergenerational trauma? It's also referred to as historical trauma. This refers to the transmission of the psychological and emotional scars of oppression and abuse from one generation to the next. It's not about genetics. It's about how trauma reshapes behavior, family dynamics, coping mechanisms, and even community structures. Here's how it's passed on. Parents who were traumatized by residential schools may become emotionally distant, abusive, or struggle with addiction, not out of malice, but because they were never parented themselves. So they were taught when you misbehave, and this isn't all of them. I'm not, again, not speaking for everyone. Anyway. Children raised in this environment may internalize that pain, normalize dysfunction, or develop their own trauma responses. And this next quote is from a second-generation survivor taken from a community healing circle. They said, "My mom was in a residential school. She never hugged us. She didn't know how. And now I have kids, and I'm learning to hug them." The trauma didn't stop with the schools. Many survivors lost their children again. Like, why did they doubt? Like, the Canadian government, that's so fucked up. Through child welfare removals and adoption. So it's like what they did with African American people in the States. So they abolished slavery, but then started arresting every person of color for petty crimes and putting them into the
segregation
carceral system. Exactly. And this is the exact same thing. They're like, okay, well, you won't let us take your children and put them into schools. Well, fine. Then we're going to start alerting family and children services.
You know, given our history as human beings, you'd think we'd fucking learn.
We don't. White people always double down. White people always double down.
Look what's happening in the States right now.
Always. Because we're doubling down. We're doubling down. We don't know. White people don't know how to take accountability. They only just know how to go, me and mine, we gotta get for me and mine. And this is Canadians too. Like, this is, it's not about you and yours. It's not about how much you can get or make or own or anything.
It's not a white issue. It's a human.
It's a human issue. Everything's a human issue. Everything's a human issue. I had this conversation with my cousin one time, and actually, never mind. I won't put that on the air. It's okay. So the trauma didn't stop at the schools. Many survivors lost their children again through child welfare removals and adoptions, often under the guise of neglect. This extended the trauma into the third generation. And this is the cycle of trauma. Survivors often struggled with alcoholism and substance dependency because they were used as coping mechanisms. They also struggled with poverty and housing instability, incarceration, often linked to untreated trauma and systemic racism, and chronic health conditions, including higher rates of diabetes, heart disease, and mental illness. These are not failings. They are symptoms of systemic harm.
That still exists today. Like the stereotypes that surround Indigenous people
are
with
just aberrant.
The homelessness and the alcohol abuse. Like, that's like, if you were to say, oh, I know an Indigenous guy, he's a raging out. Like, that's, I can tell you 6 white people off the top of my head who suffer from alcoholism as well.
Right. I can tell you way more white people.
Yeah, it's not just an Indigenous thing. And the stigmas that surround it still.
It's bizarre.
We haven't learned.
We haven't learned. We don't know how to look in the mirror. So Elder Mary Deliri of Ontario said, "They say we're broken and we're not. We're hurting and we're still trying to heal from something that was done to us, not by us."
She has a great name too.
Yeah, Mary Deliri. The suicide rate among Indigenous youth in Canada is 3 to 6 times higher than the national average. Many of these young people are descendants of residential school survivors. Feelings of not belonging, of disconnection, and of shame instilled by colonial narratives can be overwhelming. Yeah, I would think. I would think that would be very overwhelming. Grief is often compounded, and families have lost relatives to schools, to suicide, to addiction, to incarceration. And a third-generation community member said, "Sometimes I wonder what our community would be like if we hadn't lost so many, if our kids had been safe, if our language was still strong."
And that one statement there, if our kids had been safe.
Right? That should be a basic human right, that your kids are fucking safe.
Yes, and I think that's something everybody should be able to
provide.
And
it's not that hard to keep kids safe.
Recognize that feeling of wanting to keep your kids safe.
Yes, yeah, that's a very human,
Yes.
Because most people, Caleb Heron said this on So True, most people, it doesn't matter what race you are or where you are in the world, most families are just trying to raise a good family and contribute a little bit to society. That's what most people are genuinely trying to do. We're all trying to do that. We're all in the same playing field. It doesn't matter what color we are, where we come from. That is what we're all genuinely trying to do.
I think a big thing we've lost too is that whole sense of it takes a village.
Yeah. Well, yeah, totally. We have.
Yeah.
Completely.
We have no sense of community really anymore.
No. So we're creating community with this podcast.
Yes. We're taking it back.
Hell yeah. While the trauma is profound, so is the strength of those who carry it. Many survivors are healers, teachers, language keepers, and leaders today, which they shouldn't have to be. They shouldn't have to do that work. So thank you. Many have gone on to reclaim what was taken, not only for themselves, but for their communities. And again, this is Indigenous folks having to fight for something that was already theirs.
Rebuilding
and heal from shit that our ancestors did as settlers. It's fucked. So there was cultural reclamation, revival of traditional ceremonies, songs, and spiritual practices, Indigenous language programs and immersion schools, and language-based healing and education. There were community healing initiatives, sharing circles, healing lodges, and trauma therapy, elders and youth programs to restore intergenerational bonds, and survivor-led initiatives like the Indian Residential School Survivors Society. There's also survivor advocacy. Many survivors have testified publicly at great emotional cost to ensure the truth is documented. Their courage helped lead to the 2008 residential schools apology. 2008?
Then why would we really just start hearing about residential schools when they found those mass graves?
Yeah.
Oops, our secret's out.
We didn't learn this in fucking school. No. Their survivor advocacy also led to the formation of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission and the National Center for Truth and Reconciliation, as well as ongoing legal claims and land settlements. Geraldine Bobb, a survivor advocate, said in 2015, "We survived, we resisted, and now we speak for those who couldn't and those still finding their way back." Which is beautiful.
All these people have had really great...
Just profound.
Yeah.
As painful as these stories are, sharing them is itself a form of resistance and survival. Recognizing the legacy of intergenerational trauma is not about blame, it's about truth, justice, and healing together. Chief Robert Joseph, the founder of Reconciliation Canada, said, "If we heal ourselves, we heal our children. And if we heal our children, we heal our nation."
I feel like just listening to their quotes alone, white people should shut up and fucking listen.
Shut the fuck up.
There's so much more beauty and compassion in what they're saying than anything I have heard a white politician say.
Right.
Ever. We've got Doug Ford over here, and his solution to, the housing issue is to get a fucking job. Yeah. I think what he said was get off your ass and get a job. Some people are working 5.
Yeah.
You make $800 in a day, buddy.
Some of us are working 2 jobs, have a side gig and a hobby. That's revenue generating.
What are you doing, Mr. Fat Cat?
Yeah, honestly. You want to do this one?
So the resistance didn't end with childhood rebellions or family struggles. It evolved to be an organized, persistent efforts by Indigenous leaders, survivors, and allies who fought to bring the truth of residential schools to light, long before mainstream Canada was ready to listen. Which was what? 2022?
Yeah.
We told them, we've been telling them, they didn't want to hear us. And this is a quote from Florence Bird, who is an educator and early activist. Long before the federal government apologized, before the TRC, before headlines, Indigenous people were raising their voices. These early efforts were often dismissed, ignored, or actively suppressed, but they laid the essential groundwork for truth and reconciliation. The survivors who outspoke in the 1960s and 70s as residential schools were slowly beginning to close. The last federally run school shut its doors down. And get this, 1996.
I was 6.
Survivors began to publicly share their stories, often in environments that were hostile or unwelcoming. Fuck you guys, that unwelcoming.
Yeah. Wow.
Phil Fontaine, a former national chief of the Embassy of First Nations Assembly. I'm
going.
trying to slow down and it's not working. Is often credited as one of the earliest public figures to share his story. In 1990, he told CBC News that he had been sexually abused at Fort Alexander Residential School in Manitoba. It was a horrible experience. It's not just my story. It's the story of thousands of children. That's fucked up.
It's fucked up.
Fontaine's testimony helped ignite national awareness and forced political leaders to reckon with the past. Good.
Yeah.
It should not have taken that long.
No, too long.
Even today.
Too long.
Even today.
Even today.
I'm angry.
Right? It's angering.
Yeah. Commissioned by federal government, the Hawthorne Report was one of the first official documents to acknowledge the failure of residential schools.
And that didn't come out till 1967.
That's insane to me.
Yeah, and they kept
They kept going,
yeah.
They kept them going. It described Indigenous people as citizens minus.
Yeah, so like a second-class citizen.
Yeah. Less than a person.
Yeah, it's fucked up.
A damaging
Nobody
phrase.
is less than a person. Not one human on this earth is less than a person. They are a whole ass human. Just everyone's their own autonomous whole ass human.
We all bleed the same color.
That's right.
It was a damning phrase that reflected how poorly the system treated them. It recommended that cultural preservations and Indigenous self-determination and education, which were largely ignored at the time. But Indigenous leaders used the report's findings to strengthen advocacy for educational reform. And then in the 1970s and 1980s, their voices grew, and so did their movements. They began to assemble the National Indian Brotherhood, which is now the Assembly of First Nations, in 1972. The NIB published Indian Control of Indian Education, a landmark policy paper that called for Indigenous control over curriculum and teaching methods, highlighted the damage done by residential schools, and asserted that the right of children to be educated in their own communities by their own people. The NIB policy paper that was published in 1972 said education must prepare our children to live in two worlds.
Yeah.
That's it.
Because Indigenous people know what's best for their Indigenous children. Straight out. They probably know what's best for white people's children.
Just like you think you know what's best for your kids.
Exactly. They know what's best for their kids. We, something that's like so odd about us white folks is that, and I catch myself doing it too, and it's not just with people of color, it's something that we do with each other too. We always think we know better. Always.
Yeah.
Somebody is sitting there telling you, I lived this experience, and if you don't catch yourself, your response will be, you should do this.
Yeah.
Telling them how to do their lived experience better. Amplify that by a bajillion, and that's colonization. You should do this in this way.
Especially when it's not just you saying, hey, you should. It's I'm making you.
I'm making you do this now. And it's good for you.
And forget anything you think
Eat glass. You'll like it.
Those shards, they're tasty. Shut up.
Vitamins.
Vitamins.
No, you're supposed to puke blood.
It's all normal. It's all normal.
For fuck's sake, that's a literal cult. That's how cults work.
White people are cults.
White people are cults, and we'll put that on a t-shirt.
Can we, though?
No, it's not sustainable. I'll make a patch.
Though the federal government accepted the paper in principle, funding and implementation remained slow and partial.
Yeah, and I want to challenge everyone just based on that sentence there. Just a fun challenge for everyone. Just take note of things that get passed in your local government. Mm-hmm. Use ChatGPT to do that. Things that get passed in your local government, federal government, provincial government. Pick a level of government that interests you and look for things, things that are getting accepted or passed, and then wait and see how long it takes that thing to actually happen.
From my perspective, one thing that I've noticed is 2 years ago, Justin Trudeau said, insulin will be free.
Still not free.
Still not free.
Is birth control free now?
I don't think so.
Still not.
Still not.
And Jagmeet did a lot of pharmacare stuff.
Yeah.
And that's still not. And this is life-saving stuff.
Right?
Messed up.
I get more and more annoyed every time I come over to you.
And challenge your government. And when you notice that you're pissed off that there's something got passed and it's not going, write your MP a letter. Your MP or your MPP, whether it's a provincial or a federal thing. If it's, okay, your MPP, your member of provincial parliament, that's how you're going to remember that. MPP, member of provincial parliament. That's who you're going to contact if you have a provincial issue. If you have a federal issue, you're going to contact your MP. That's your member of parliament. Thank you. And that's easily Googleable. You can Google that information.
Thank you for coming to our TED Talk.
Thank you for coming to our TED Talk. Please rebel. Please rebel safely. Keep all your hands and limbs inside the rebellion at this time. Thank you.
This will be a bumpy ride.
This will be a bumpy ride.
Turbulence.
Expect turbulence. And no, we do not have oxygen masks. Hold your breath.
Grab your butts.
Grab your butts.
Throughout the 1980s and the 1990s, survivals began launching lawsuits against churches and federal government.
Hell yeah. Mm-hmm. They were like, that's it. That's it. We're suing.
They were demanding accountability for abuse.
Hell yeah. As you should.
Many were settled quietly, or they were dragged through the courts for years.
Yeah, because the churches have so much money, and everybody's got to think about the amount of money that churches have. The collection plate that goes around. Boom. No taxes ever. Boom.
Government funding.
Boom.
The drives that they do,
boom. The regular donations. Boom. Churches have a lot of money, man. They are. And I'm not saying this, we all know I'm staunchly not religious. We all know this about me. I'm not saying it to offend anyone.
I'm a witch who hexes the patriarchy.
We're witches here. You're in a witchy realm here. I just want everyone to consider just all the money that goes into churches. It's like all the money that goes into the government. I'm asking you to question that too. I'm asking you to challenge that too. I'm asking you to challenge the government. If you're a staunchly religious person, just again, take notice of something. Or don't. I don't know. I'm not fucking telling you what to do. I'm not your mama.
And they aren't very community based either. They're about their own community.
They're about their own community. And I have a problem with the way they do those 12-step programs. I understand. I love that. I love that they provide free, cheap spaces for 12-step programs. But then it automatically makes this religious affiliation.
Yeah.
And people pretty interchangeably use like higher power or God in those spaces, which every time somebody said God, I'd try and say like higher power, higher power, higher power, and like what my higher power is to me.
Higher power, universe.
Yeah, but that's hard to do when everybody's saying God and you're in a church. And when you're a vulnerable person who's coming off drugs or alcohol and trying to build this new type of life, it'd be very easy to be indoctrinated into that lifestyle. And I don't know that that indoctrination is necessary innocent when a collection plate goes around every Sunday and they don't pay taxes on that money.
Well, like when my sister was diagnosed with cancer at first, I wanted to have a charity event for Princess Margaret. You were there. You did the
I was there. We've been tethered for some time.
For quite some time. Yeah, you did dance. I
did a free dance
class.
hip-hop.
Yeah. The original church that I wanted to go to, they said no because I wasn't a part of their parish. And they made me wait a week before they came to me with that decision. And they're like, we're just here to prioritize our own organizations. And I was like, I was going to give you money for it. It's for cancer research that my sister's cancer was very, 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 very rare. But there was another woman whose sister had something similar and lost her eye to a cancer as well. And I was like, we've gone through the same thing. And then another church double booked me and then canceled me.
Oh my Lord.
And then the church that we went to, I mean, I did have a tarot reader in there, but the woman who came to me, she was of the LGBTQ community. Yeah. And she was like, don't you think it's blasphemous to have a tarot reader? And I was like, aren't you supposed to be blasphemous? Since when did we cherry pick here? And
when are we cherry picking? And it's for entertainment purposes.
Right? And that...
The law is practicing.
And you also had me sign a contract for a public event.
Yeah.
So, like, it's not based off it's a cancer research fundraiser.
Yeah. Again, the morals are questionable. Also, I've had, a few churches call where I work and ask for discounts on floral arrangements. And I'm like, no, we don't provide a discount. And they're like, we're a church. I'm like,
yeah, so you have the money.
You have the money. We're a small business. Shouldn't you want to contribute to the small business in your community? And we've switched owners recently within 2 years. So don't you want to get... And you've dealt with this company the whole time, like for years and years. Yeah. Wouldn't you want to pay... It's a small business in your community. Oh, no, always looking for a fucking discount. Another thing to be wary of. People always looking for a discount. Because one day they're going to fucking discount you. And I promise you that. Did you like that?
I did like that.
But I feel like there's some value to what I just said. Not always. I'm not. You guys know what I'm overthinking again.
I like it.
Okay.
So these early legal battles set the precedent for the mass class action lawsuits that would later come.
Yeah.
Good.
Hell yeah.
Raise some hell. The churches began to respond, but slowly. In the 1980s and the early 1990s. 1990s. Several church organizations began issuing apologies. While they were important symbolic steps, they came decades after the harm had already been done. The United Church of Canada in 1986, that was the year I was born.
Yeah.
Said we tried to make you be like us, and in doing so, we helped to destroy the vision that made you what you were.
Yeah.
The year I was born.
Year I was born, they said that.
The quiet rage.
It's festering.
It really is. The Anglican Church of Canada.
I was baptized Anglican. I denounce them now publicly.
I'm the only one of my four sisters, four siblings that was baptized. I was the first. I don't even know what I was baptized as. I'm going to have to ask my mom that. I just know I was the only one. And then my parents were like, we should maybe let them choose.
You know what I don't know? My blood type.
I think I'm AB positive.
I'm going to ask next time I go to the doctor.
It might be valuable information for me to know in critical situations.
What if I'm that really good, like that rare, like that good one that matches with everyone?
It's O negative or O positive?
Yeah, what if I'm one of those? I should be donating blood or something.
I can't donate blood.
Oh, me either, actually, because I get tattoos.
Stupid diabetes. The Archbishop of this church, Michael Piers, he said, "I'm sorry. I am more sorry than I can say."
Well, you should have said more than that, brother.
And again, notice how lack of poetic and articulate it is.
Yeah.
What
There's no...
any of the Indigenous people have said about this matter.
Yeah.
It's like, this feels like a shoulder shrug. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Me no. Shall we? Like, fuck.
The Catholic Church, however, of course, has been more fragmented in its apologies, something that continues to cause pain and anger among survivors.
Understandably so. I mean, absolutely. Get mad, Queen. King. You guys get mad. I'll support you. You don't have to tell me where I'm going to stop.
So there were grassroots movements and survivor-led healing. In addition to public advocacy and policy work, survivors and communities created their own healing and awareness initiatives. The Native Women's Association of Canada was instrumental in bringing attention to both residential school abuse and the link to missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. Highway of Tears.
Highway of Tears. We're going to do an episode on that. We're also going to do the 60 scoop.
Fuck yeah. I'm all for it.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
I'm excited about this. Not excited about that this happened. Excited to dive deep and educate people on it.
Yeah. It's history that needs to be told.
That isn't taught in our schools.
It's not taught in our schools. And it's a Canadian creepy.
Hell yeah, it is.
Hell yeah.
The Indian Residential School Survivors Society was founded in British Columbia and provided counseling and cultural support decades before the government resources were available. The government ignored us, so we helped each other. We cried together, we danced, we remembered. This is an elder, Lorena Williams. If I even attempt to say that.
Elder Lorna Williams, Nucha Nuth Nation.
Thank you.
North Nation. North?
Because I would have butchered that unintentionally, and I don't want to be...
I don't know that I'm saying it right, but...
I would have not done as good as a job as you. I would have gotten nowhere near close. So thank you for stepping in.
No problem.
Yes.
No thanks needed.
After years of advocacy, the federal government established the RCAP, which was the Royal Commission on Aboriginal People, and its 1996 report. Mm-hmm. It acknowledged the harm caused by residential schools, recommended a public inquiry.
Recommended. I love how government uses the term recommendations. Well, after this 17-page investigation, we have about 43 recommendations. Fuck off. How about call it compulsory actions?
Doing.
Yeah.
Actions speak louder than words.
Fuck yeah.
Treat people how you want to be treated. Did your mama not teach you anything?
Right.
It called for reparations, apologies, and systematic reform.
Systemic reform.
Systemic.
Sorry.
What the hell are apologies are all good and well, but what the fuck is that going to do me now?
Yeah, honestly. Oh, I'm sorry.
And it doesn't even feel genuine. It's just like, we got caught.
Yeah.
Especially with...
Yeah, we got caught, yeah.
Especially with all the mass graves that they found. Oopsie, we tried to cover it up.
Me no know.
Me no know.
It's fucked up.
Why early advocacy matters. The early voices didn't just help survivors.
I think you missed that last bit.
Oh, I did. Sorry. Yet many of the... Speaking of recommendations, there were 440 of them.
Oh my God.
They were left unimplemented all the time.
At the time, they were left unimplemented.
Still, the RCAP became a crucial reference point for future advocacy, including the eventual creation of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission.
Right on.
So why early advocacy matters? These early voices didn't just help survivors. They challenged the country's denial, which
our
is...
country's denial. Richard raised his head. I was like, what? Yeah, you heard me, brother.
It's our country's.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a country's denial, but it is our country's denial. Yeah. And again...
the country in which we reside.
Speak up, people. You have a voice, too. Use it.
Yes, use it.
They forced institutions to reckon with their role. Of course. But did they, though? They kept the truth alive even when it was inconvenient or unwanted. And Viola Thomas, who is a survivor and advocate, she said, "Our voices were small, but we never stopped speaking. We knew the truth, and the truth doesn't lie."
Die. The truth doesn't die.
My eyes are blurred.
You're doing great.
I think I need to change the background too, so that it's black instead
that
of
might
white
help.
against. Yeah, I notice it even when I'm reading my own scripts, that when I have the black screen against it, it's a lot easier.
I think mine is black. I don't know why.
On my phone, for some reason, it's white. I don't know why, and it does make my eyes a little blurred.
And you know what? That's fine. My medicine makes my eyes a little blurred.
So does my diabetes. Oh, this is why free insulin matters.
Yeah. Oh, this is why. And that brings us to the end of today's episode, Resistance and Survival.
We talked about student rebellions and runaways, families fighting to reclaim their children, and the early seeds of advocacy that pushed back against an entire system built to erase Indigenous cultures.
These stories remind us that even in the face of unimaginable harm, there was and is resistance. Survival itself is an act of defiance.
We also want to acknowledge the impact these schools have had on survivors, their families, and entire communities. Harm that continues throughout intergenerational trauma.
We share these histories not to re-traumatize, but to recognize them honestly and to honor the courage of those who refuse to be silenced or broken.
As always, we encourage you to listen to Indigenous voices directly, support local organizations and advocacies, and keep learning beyond this series.
Next time, we'll be looking at the road to reckoning, how and why these schools finally closed, the 60 Scoop, the fight for injustice, and the work of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission.
Thank you for joining us. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you in the next episode.